purging is at last at hand. The day of doom is here. All that is evil, all that are lies, your parents, your ears, those who would call themselves your judges, those who have lied and corrupted the earth, they shall all be cleansed.
I was speaking to myself the whole time, and I'm like, oh, what's going on here, right? Am I going to be doing this the whole time? Good sir, base meth addict, you may speak. Go on right ahead.
How are we doing? It's good to be here. Good to be in this space. Gonna chill here for 20, 30 minutes, and then, go night night, go blanky mode. Because I have
Blanky
to
mode.
wait in the morning. You gotta go blanky mode because I gotta wage like the wage cuck I am, like in my
uh,
cage. But I pretty much is fucked. I think that because in that other space where we were, I think a lot of these people who are like really, and now Seattle extremist is gone because he doesn't want to hear the truth. Sucks to be him. But the
yeah.
but the I think, like I was talking about, it's just like a lot of these people just don't seem to understand the perilous economic position we're in. They don't seem to
No, 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 no,
understand
no.
that.
Bingo,
They don't
bingo,
seem to
bingo.
understand that we have it, that there's still 50 quadrillion illegal immigrants in this country, and they haven't at all left. They don't seem to understand that the Republican Party is incredibly unpopular right now,
Hmm.
and and the moment you lose the midterms, right? Uh, at best, Trump spends the next 2 years of his presidency, getting literally less than nothing done.
Hmm. Hmm.
At worst, he might get like straight up impeached, and it's just gonna be like, I don't know, like
Hmm.
Taylor Green is like, I don't even like her that much. She's a dumb bimbo, and you can tell if you're paying attention that a lot of this is her seeing where the wind is, and she's trying to catch that wind, as it were, and
Yeah,
seeing where the
yeah,
wind blows. But
yeah.
like, she's not wrong.
Hmm.
Health insurance premiums are up. Inflation is up. Everything is still expensive. Trump,
Yep.
like, I still can't afford a house, dude.
Exactly, man, exactly. Like, the thing with Marjorie Taylor Greene, I think that's who you're talking about, right? The thing with her is that she knows that America is fucked, right? She knows that the crash is gonna happen, man. I mean, like, look, nobody actually believes that Nvidia is worth $4.7 trillion, man. Like, that's rubbish. That's complete rubbish, right? And so when this bubble pops, right? Like, a lot of things are gonna drop in, a lot of things are gonna drop. A lot of things are gonna crash hard. I mean, you guys, I don't know. Like, did you see the flash crash for crypto? Where like some people lost like 50, 60, 70, 80, ninety
Well,
percent
what
of their
was that? What exactly happened with that?
basically, like obviously Bitcoin is the big asset, right? Then you've got XRP, which is like Ripple, then you've got these other guys. Um a lot of guys on crypto, they're like 20% leverage, 50% leverage, 100% leverage. They're gambling like that. And basically what that means is if you're gambling at those ratios and the Bitcoin price even goes down by like anything close to like 10%, like let's say you have a very very big fall, right? Then it's like, okay, well, man, you got to cover your shorts and all this other shit, right? And so long story short, like a lot of people got wiped out. There were actual suicides and shit. um Bitcoin, like people don't like it when I say it, but Bitcoin basically trades similar to a Nasdaq ETF, right? So when Trump announced a few days ago, right, and then obviously he tacoed like he usually does, but when he announced a few days ago that, oh, I'm gonna do 100% tariffs on China again, and China this, China that, or whatever, like that's what made the Nasdaq go down. That's what made Bitcoin do the flash crash. There's a couple of other things like a bunch of these whales did these big short positions. Long story short, my friend, um, yeah, like a lot of people lost their entire life savings and they committed suicide and all this other stuff. like that's an appetizer, man. That's an appetizer. You wanna see what the main course is? The main course is gonna be much worse than that, right? And I know you're talking about the midterms and all this other stuff. I just don't think we're gonna have to wait that long, man. Like, what are we at? We're at like second or third week of October. I'm gonna say we're at the second week of October.
Hmm.
If it doesn't happen this month, probably by the end of the year. I don't think we're gonna have to wait till January for this like, crash to happen. Simply because like
What do you think, Joe? What do you think exactly are? What do you think is going to cause the crash in particular? Like, what will cause?
that's very difficult to answer. Like, I'm not a macro guy, but if I had to like guess, it would be like the China retaliation, right? Again, I'm not a macro guy. Don't take financial advice, blah blah blah, the whole shebang, right? But like, if China seriously retaliates, right, and it's inked, it's on paper, and it's like, yeah, this is how we do things now. Yeah, I mean, because like the thing with people right now is, why are the markets still going up and all this sort of stuff? The markets are basically doing what's called the taco trade, which is TACO, right? Trump always chickens out. So whenever Trump says something like, okay, I'll do a bajillion tariffs, I'll do this, I'll do that, what the markets actually are saying is, okay, man, he's going to do this for a while and he's going to scare a bunch of us. Those people will dump their stocks, and then you do the taco trade, which is you buy up that stuff for cheap and you pump the stock even more, right? The assumption there is that America is in control and Trump is in control, right? But what if that entire thesis is false? What if the supplier, aka China, is in control, right? This is the thing. It's like, if the Chinese do an actual like tit for tat, because again, they've been very, very disciplined and they've been very, very benevolent thus far with regard to all the bullshit Trump has done to them. And so they're just like, you know what, man? Fuck it. We're just gonna put export controls, and yeah, not a single one of our like.
Well, explain the export controls to me because I keep hearing about this, but I don't know
Sure,
exactly
man.
what it
Sure, sure,
means.
sure. Like, already they exist for like gallium, germanium, and these other things. Um, Gallium is interesting. The only way you can get it is if you do mass refining of aluminum, but like several, thousands of tons and so, and then for every several thousands of tons that you do, you get like trace amounts of gallium. Gallium is a very, very interesting metal. If you put it on your hands, you've got body temperature. It basically melts due to body temperature, right? Why is that relevant? Well, when you're working with semiconductors, when you're working with like small electronics and these other things, you can't really do much without gallium and these other things, right? You can try and substitute with like silicon and these other guys, but it doesn't really work. It's not a perfect substitute. It's similar to how, like, if you have copper and silver, copper does conduct electricity, but silver is simply a superior conductor, right? So in the natural world around us, yes, you can find substitutes for certain things, but they're going to be imperfect and flawed. And if you have a few percentage points of reduction for performance, what that means is the entire thing doesn't work, right? So that's kind of what that is. Those export controls already exist, but if I had to guess what the escalation would be on the Chinese side, it would be like, okay, not only are we not exporting that stuff to you, we're also not going to be exporting our computers to you, which I think like in 2023 accounted for like 50, 60 billion of all Chinese exports to America. So it's their largest export category. We're not going to do machineries to you. We're not going to even send over basic raw inputs. So, I said computers, I said machineries, parts, and so on and so forth, right? So if they actually did that, right, then I think like the taco trade that we've been witnessing thus far, that would unravel, right? Because then markets would begin to price in that actually, hang on a second, our thesis of the last 6, 7 months since Liberation Day onward was that, hey, Trump's not really serious and all this. But what if all of that's wrong? What if China's the guy in control, like I said, right? So if that happens, yeah, man, like, you might see like flash crash, you might see like Black Monday, Black Tuesday, whatever you want to call it, right? And all kinds of bullshit like that, basically. But again, it's very difficult to predict these things. It's very difficult to price it in, because the only way you can do that is if you're in the inner circle for the Politburo or these other things, and you're like, yeah, I know for a fact that this is about to happen 72 hours from now or whatever, right? That's kind of what's going on.
I see. Well, I think the big thing is also, well, I guess the question is, what risks do China take? What are the possible risks for China if they engage in the export controls?
What would they gain out of it, basically?
No, what's it called? Like, what could they lose from it? How could this hurt them? Could this cause
Oh,
problems from
absolutely,
them?
absolutely. They would lose quite a bit of like, they would lose quite a bit of like export revenue, no doubt, right? But it depends on what they're selling, right? Like, basically, you know, what's the example I want to use? Okay, American soybeans, right? So, since May of this year, not a single American soybean has entered the Chinese market, right? China stopped taking that stuff, right? Um, if you're the exporter, right, you're the one making the money, right? So American farmers are getting absolutely clapped in the behind, right? Thanks to lack of the Chinese market, which I think would made up over 50% of their exports, right? So basically, like, okay, if the Chinese are doing this thing where, okay, well, we're not gonna be seeing this stuff enter the American market anymore. We're just gonna like put controls on this. Yeah, they're gonna lose market share, right? But at that point, it just becomes like, okay, well, do we have enough domestic consumption? And do we have enough consumption that can soak this up in like Brazil, Russia, Iran, and these other places, right? For some products, the answer is yes. For other products, not so much, right? I think especially the high-end computers and these types of things, uh, I don't think most of that stuff will be bought up by the other players, just because like a lot of them don't have whatchamacallit, don't have that the ginormous service sector that America does, right? So they would be impacted, right? But like it's a negative sum game, right? In a negative sum game, it's like both players are losing, right? But who bleeds more, right? If I bleed and you bleed and you're bleeding more, in a certain sense, you're going to pass out earlier than me, right? So in that sense, I keep playing that quote unquote lose-lose game, if that makes sense. So
I see. Well, I mean, I guess the Chinese, the Chinese do this, and then I'm kind of fucked, ain't I?
well, the thing is, right? They could just take the attitude of, you know what, man? Trump's a fucking taco. He doesn't fucking matter. Like he's not. He's a pussy. He's a pussy bitch. He's not gonna do the 100% tariffs or whatever. To try and screw our export revenues in like November or whatever, right? So we'll just let it slide. It could be that, right? Or it could be, like I said, the worst possible scenario, which is like China actually does tit for tat, for the first time in several weeks and months, right? In which case, right, like people don't understand this, right? Like, okay, enough, it doesn't matter if we don't get 55, $60 billion of imports of Chinese computers into America because, like, we can just build it here. No, you can't. The factory doesn't pop up overnight, man, right? The assembly doesn't pop up overnight, right? And for a lot of these guys, getting supply of these computers in a matter of days and weeks is a difference between them going bust versus them actually functioning as a business, right? So it's like, well, we'll make them here, and it's like, okay, so you're gonna make them when 5 years from now, 10 years from now, right? Do you even know what like the process is to open one of these like manufacturing plants? Do you even know how long it takes, the average time? So it's all like ghost dance rubbish, man, right? Like it's the American ghost dance rubbish. Um, and then when you talk to them, the second thing that they say is, well, okay, fine, we can make them 5, 10 years from now, but don't worry, man. Like in the meantime, we'll import them from elsewhere. I'm like, okay, well, where are you importing 55, $60 billion of computers from, right? Are you importing it from India because India doesn't have that volume? Uh, are you importing it from Russia? Again, doesn't have that volume, right? And you can go down the list, right? The problem is, right? Here's the fundamental problem. The problem is if China doesn't import certain things from America, they will get hurt, but there are substitutes for that stuff. For example, American soybeans. Okay, it fucks over Chinese restaurant owners and like people who work in all these other sectors, right? Fair enough. but there are Brazilian soybeans and Argentinian soybeans, right? The volume exists, right? Similarly for other stuff as well, right? The same is not true the other way around. If America doesn't get Chinese machine parts, Chinese spare parts, right? Chinese computers, etc., 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 there's not like this supply out there from somebody else that they can tap into, right? Again, even if the Indians were brainwashed, like you waved the magic wand and you brainwashed all the Indians to love America so much that they started dumping their stuff for free in America, right? The Indians do not make the same amount of volume that the Chinese do with regard to like computers and these other things, right? They don't have that industry, man. They don't, right? So yeah, that's where things are at, right? My suspicion is that the reason China's not going to do it, right? And this is like the thesis of Team Nothing Ever Happens. The reason they're not going to do it is because they're looking at the world right now. Okay, gold is going up this much, silver is going up that much. America has this domestic turmoil. Every day that the government shutdown lasts longer, I think Goldman Sachs, the number was, it shaves off negative 0.2% from next year's GDP. So the Chinese are looking at this entire saying the 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 different convergent crises that are destroying America, and they're just like, we'll just wait it out, man. Like, America is fucked, and so why do we need to rock the boat, right? Just like let the attrition happen, right? And I think that's probably what they're going to do, right? Again, I could be wrong, but I don't expect anything drastic, basically, right? I think the betting markets and these guys, they're actually correct about this. I don't think it's going to happen. Uh, if it does happen, then yes, you would actually get a market crash.
So then let's go. So if it doesn't happen, then what does happen by the end of the day?
What causes the crash?
Like, yeah.
If that one doesn't happen, mm, it would have to be something else that breaks. In which case, I think that the other thing that could break would be one of these European countries like flirting with bankruptcy. So it'll probably be the French, honestly. Maybe the French or the Germans. Because you know what's happening in France, right?
Oh, the Fifth Republic is about to collapse. We're going to have a third world crisis of some sort, and we're going to have a Sixth Republic.
Yeah, the reason for that is because Macron doesn't want to resign. Marine Le Pen wants him to resign. He's like, no man, fuck you. And
Why does Marie Le Pen want him to resign? There's no hope that she's going to be fucking made prime president.
oh dear.
Her father, her
What?
like
Your
I feel it's like. Sorry, continue.
no, your audio glitched out a bit, good sir. So you might have to repeat what you just said.
I said her father is rolling in his grave to see what she's become and what she turned the national rally into.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, she's just cattle for the Jews now. She's like the goy for the Jews now. So like, I mean, I know what she's trying to do, but like, it's not gonna work. I mean, Macron's not gonna resign. And the problem is that he's not resigning, and what's happening is every month he's getting a new guy as prime minister. The guy shows up as prime minister. He's got a cabinet and everything. They try to run the government. They fucking fail. 1 month later, the prime minister resigns. And I think that's already happened like 3 or 4 or 5 times this year, right? So like, this is what I tell people. I'm like, you people want to deport a bajillion migrants, but your own fucking government doesn't work. Like the prime minister literally has to resign 1 month later. What do you think's gonna happen, man? Nothing's gonna happen, right? So it's like, but that's the thing. If all of this keeps happening over and over again, right? Like investors are gonna dump more and more French bonds, right? And like all these guys have problems. Like the British, for example, the British Central Bank, Bank of England, they've cut interest rates like 4 times this year already, right? And like even after cutting rates 4 times, bond market the yields are still going up, right? Uh, it's an inverse relationship. So if yields go up, price goes down for the bonds, and so like if the Chinese don't do their thing, then I would say that the second quote unquote failure point would be sovereign debt default or sovereign crisis for like one of these European economies, in which case it spreads to all of them, and the IMF does not have enough cash and whatnot to bail them out. So, hooray! Buckle up, boys and girls. Hold on.
So I was curious as to why you specifically singled out France and not the UK. I understand France is having like
Yeah,
serious
yeah.
political and financial issues, but I understand that the UK is in very, very dire straits financially. So I'm just curious as to why you mentioned France
Mm,
first and not the UK at all.
fair enough, fair enough. The UK is in trouble, yes, but the thing with the UK is that it's whatchamacallit, it's not gotten to the point where like, hey man, we gotta raise the retirement age and do all this other bullshit, right? In France, I think that it's already gotten to that point, right? So it's like, if the UK is 85% fucked, France is like 90% fucked, if that makes sense, right? So it's not that I didn't spend time on the UK because I think it's unimportant. It's more like, Sir Base Medatic asked me a question, which one is it going to be? And I'm just like, okay, my gut feeling is it's going to be France, right? Um,
Fair enough.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So no, UK's fucked too. It's just like it's very difficult because like, okay, enough. Which of these is gonna fail first? And it's like, okay, well, this guy's got level 4 bone cancer, and this other guy's got like level 4 brain cancer. Which guy dies first? Like you're asking me that question. I'm like, okay, man. Which
Fair
guy's it
enough.
gonna
Fair
be,
enough.
man? Which guy's it gonna be? Right. So, oh, it's just funny. It's just funny, and like people don't understand this, right? Like a lot of people, they're talking about gold and silver like they know this shit, right? Full disclosure, I'm not a finance guy. I'm not a macro guy. I don't study this stuff full time, but a couple of my bros do, right? And when I talk to my bros, they always tell me all this stuff, right? And so I talk to them and I ask them, okay, what's behind this like increase in gold and silver? And they were very open with me. They're just like, in the case of silver, higher industrial demand for like quote unquote the AI and green revolution stuff. I mean, I don't believe in that stuff, but people believe in that stuff, so they buy the stuff. That's the first leg of the problem. The second leg is as monetary metals, people are dumping treasury bonds and they're parking their money in gold and silver, right? Um, there is a concept, right, which goes like this, right? You've got two options. Option number one is you hold money as cash or whatnot. And option two is you park it somewhere, right? When you park money somewhere, it needs to give you something, right? It needs to make sense for you to park the money there versus the alternative, which is holding it in cash or whatnot, right? It has to do something for you, right? Traditionally, over the last several decades, what people did was they dumped their money and they parked it in treasury bonds, right? They chased yield with the money. And as they chased yield with the money, if you're like a big guy, like a central bank or like a government or whatnot, that is what gave you the safe, quote unquote, asset class, which you then use to buy all the other riskier stuff, whether it's stocks, crypto, or whatever, right? I mean, central banks don't buy crypto, but you get the idea, like, stocks, real estate, whatever, the whole shebang, right? The way you think about it is, let's say you're an individual person. I want to buy a car. I want to buy this other thing. I want to buy whatever, right? Well, what do you use? You use your home equity line of credit, right? That's your quote unquote safe asset. And then you buy everything else, right? So what happens if your home equity line of credit gets fucked? Everything else gets fucked, right? And so that's the thing. It's like, well, if the failure point is in bonds, right? What's going to happen? Well, what's going to happen is you're going to see it unravel all these other things, right? And so that's the issue. The issue is not, oh my gosh, the gold price is going up because the fucking Indian jewelry store and like all the Indians suddenly decided to have more weddings and buy more. No, bro, that's not the reason, right? The reason the Indians and the Chinese and the Russians and the Brazilians and everyone else is buying gold and silver is, in the case of silver, obviously there's that industrial side, but if you take that away, the real reason they're buying it is that they recognize that parking money in treasuries is no longer worth it, right? America is not trustworthy, right? It's basically not even functioning properly. It's not just America, all these other European governments, right? Yes, you can buy their bonds and they get absolutely fucked, right? Trying to run a government. They can't even run a government properly, right? So what the fuck is the point, you know, buying their debt, right? And so that's the reason this is happening. The reason this is happening is not because, like I said, the jewelry store wants more fucking like gold and silver. That's not the reason, right? So yeah, so we got like a lot of funky things happening, gents, basically. So
Okay. I also I I have a question about your opinion on events in the United States uh, in the near future. I work in the telecom industry.
yes,
I
sir.
was in a previous discussion talking about how I was laid off.
Hmm.
I was then brought back on by one of the companies that bought out my employer, my old employer.
Yeah, yeah,
And I have been asking a few times to some of the people who are higher up in the company
yeah, yeah, yeah.
about what's going to happen with the AI bubble popping and all these other things.
Hmm.
And they tell me that um, because of the way their contracts work and the fact that they fill out contracts until like a year in advance,
Hmm.
that they're funded through the entirety of that period of operation.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I'm listening to some of the things you're saying, you and others are saying about like the core fundamentals of how financial systems work, national financial systems.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Um, and I have some serious questions as to whether or not
Mhm.
that explanation holds up. I was just wondering what you thought
Sure,
about
sure,
that.
no problem, no problem. Um, Funding is an interesting thing, right? Like, yes, you can be funded, right? But then you got to remember that the purchasing power of your money is not a constant thing, right? Like the Dixie index, I think this year is already down like about 10% or something, 8 to 10%. I forget the exact number, right? Um, Whenever there is a change in the Dixie, what it tells you is the relative purchasing power of the dollar, right? So, if you're like an American exporter, yeah, I mean, good for you that the dollar has become weaker, right? If you're an importer, however, you know, that's bad for you, right? Now, there are going to be people who are funded, right? And all these other things, right? Fair enough, right? But if your denominator, right? And you've got this guy called Robert. I think he runs a channel on YouTube. It's called Infonomics. I think he does this professionally for a living, right? But he basically explained it as follows. It's like, yes, you can be funded and you can get the same unit of money, right? Over a period of a year or several months or what have you. But if it buys you less and if you can do less with it, right, it's kind of a moot point, right? Um, I'm not saying that, oh, tomorrow America is going to become Zimbabwe. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that if you see the gold price and the silver price keep going higher and higher and higher, right? Like 5,000, 6,000, 7,000, that's very, very bad. What that basically means is people are offloading their bonds, right? If they're offloading their bonds, again, opportunity cost. Money is not chasing yield. Money is not being sent to governments and sovereigns who are then using it to service their debts and whatnot. Money is instead, quote unquote, sitting or being parked in gold and silver. In which case, like, okay, interest on the debt, all these other servicing costs and whatnot, they're going up. And sure, a couple of companies might get funded here and there, but like the interest on the debt and whatnot, those things accelerate, they devour more and more and more until there's basically nothing left, right? I think Robert ran the numbers, and the number he found was that, okay, you've got the dot-com recession 2001, you've got global financial crisis 2007, and then you've got the COVID recession of 2020. All right, in the last 25 years, these are the three main recessions. Let's say we take a model of those three and we say that, okay, take a rough average with regard to all three of these, and then let's think about or contemplate recession number four in the 21st century. What does recession number four look like? Well, it would basically increase the deficit and it would lower the incoming cash flow, so the incoming revenues, and it would basically increase the interest on the debt. Okay, but what would that mean? So he started with the basic number. So the number he started with was per annum, $4 trillion are coming into the American Treasury. 6 trillion is being spent, right? So deficit's about 2 trillion something. Interest on the debt is about 1.3 trillion something, right? And that's kind of the situation right now. Okay, what would be the situation if there is a quote unquote normal recession? Normal as in like you look at the last 3 recessions, you take an average and you apply it. Okay. The normal recession would be as follows. The spending would be roughly 9 trillion something per annum. Incoming revenue would be dropping to 3.5 to 3 trillion, something like that, right? So again, you got a 6 trillion deficit, right? Interest on the debt would be well over 2, approaching 3 trillion, right? So you're in a situation where just the interest on the debt alone is approaching the 3 to 3.5 trillion dollars, right? My friend, if you're at that point, no one's getting paid. Military is not getting paid. No one else is getting paid, right? When I said no one's getting paid, I'm talking specifically about the federal government paying these people, right? Sure, private companies and these other guys, they might scrounge together certain things and pay people for a while, but eventually that too will run out, basically, if that makes sense, right? It's all a timing aspect, if that makes sense, right? I mean, right now as we're speaking, right, like Trump's like, okay, well, I'm gonna make sure the military get paid. I mean, you can sign some stuff right now, but because there's a government shutdown and all this other bullshit, right? A lot of people are not going to get paid, right? A lot of people are not getting paid right now. Many of them have been furloughed. Many of them, right, are going to get absolutely screwed if this government shutdown keeps going. I think the markets are saying it's going to go on for at least 32, 33 days. I don't know that yet, but it's probably accurate. Betting markets tend to get these things correct. But no, that's where things are at. Uh, yeah, it's gonna be very bad, and it's gonna be very bad even if we assume the absolute bare minimum, which is like, okay, well, let's take the average quote unquote recession and apply it here. So that's what that is basically.
And one more question.
Yeah, go for it.
Just by your estimation, I was curious what you think like a rough timeline would be for the AI bubble popping, or anything else you think would
Ooh, AI bubble
possibly
popping.
bring something on early.
Yeah, I mean, it's very event driven. That's the problem. I mean, I was speaking about like the China actually responding forcefully, which it's possible, but I don't think like, they're gonna do it for several reasons, right? But let's say they don't do it. Let's say, okay, the AI bubble is popped by like a sovereign crisis in like one of these like European countries, right? In which case you're looking at, I'm gonna say what, early to mid 2026 or something like that, right? But again, like it's very tricky to pinpoint these accurately, right? Like you can kind of look at the structural forces. You can be like, okay, well, this bridge has lots of cracks. This thing is tilting too much that way. The cables are kind of fucked. It's about to snap. And then if a person asks you, okay, what exactly do you think the time frame is for this bridge collapsing? You can kind of give an estimate, but uh, you know, very, very difficult, my friend. Like hey man, when exactly is the bridge going to collapse? Honest answer, I don't know, right? I can give you an estimate, but like I said, tricky. Yeah,
Fair enough, fair
yeah,
enough.
yeah.
Thank you.
No worries. Happy to help. Happy to help. By the way, this is not financial advice, so there you go. Gotta say
No,
that.
I know that. I know that. I
Testing,
mean,
testing, 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
yeah,
Go
yeah.
for it.
Groovy, groovy. Great. No, I think that. Oh, well, you keep saying that Trump doesn't have time. Like, what is your like timeline on what happens to Trump in the next 2 years? Like, what's actually going to happen to him, and then from there, what happens to the party, to the Republican Party?
Oh man.
Because you have like I've seen like I know you have like a 2 hour long like ultimate doomer merchant post, and I've never been able to finish it. Not it's just like it's
Which one are you
long, all
talking
right.
about, man?
There's like this the coming collapse where you basically predict like a century's worth of stuff, and I'm like, listen, I'm too small brain to pay attention to this right now.
Oh, you're talking about the next 100 years.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
But
that one. Yeah.
instead of telling me the next 100 years, give me the next like couple years. Like, what do you think is likely going to happen to Trump? How does he leave office? What happens to him?
Well, I mean, he's going to leave office as more hated than Herbert Hoover, perhaps even more hated than a couple of these other guys. But uh, I don't think there's going to be a normal midterms. Uh, it's probably going to be, you know, one guy saying the other guy cheated or some other bullshit. Some bullshit's going to happen for that. With regard to the next several months is going to be economic crisis, geopolitical crisis. He's probably going to attack Venezuela. I think at this point, I'm looking at the troop movements. I'm like, yeah, this is going to happen. So that's going to be a quagmire. Um, the Israel thing, there was a ceasefire in January. It lasted about 2 months. This one, I don't even know if it's going to last 2 months. So they're probably going to, that thing's going to get blown up again, most likely. So, okay, so Venezuela, he's fighting there. And Israel, Iran, that thing will probably blow up again. Okay, so he's fighting there. What else? Russia and Ukraine, that thing's still going on. Uh, the Europeans will be like, Trump, please send us weapons. And Trump will be like, I got nothing left, man. I'm out. Right. So, I mean, he's not going to say it, but one of his sycophants is going to say it. Right. But, okay. So that's happening. That's happening. That's happening. That's three things. All right. What else? Uh, America no longer has sufficient airlift and sea lift to even contest Taiwan. That's not just my opinion. That's like Government Accountability Office, Rand Corporation, all these other guys are just like, yeah, we cannot fight a war there anymore. Okay, so what happens in 2026? It's just gonna be a more and more of these crises, man. It's gonna be more and more of these crises. Trump's gonna yell loudly. Trump's gonna be like, I'll do this thing, I'll do that thing. Look at me, I signed 50 orders or whatever the fuck. And then, it's gonna be more Charlie Kirk type massacres, more Irina type massacres, right? More like screeching and yelling and whatever, right? Trump's gonna quote unquote do more like kayfabe bullshit. And like, even before the fake midterms happen, like more and more people will get off the Trump train and more people will realize that, yeah, like Trump actually can't do anything, man. Like, what can he do? Okay, 500 National Guardsmen to a city of 3 million, which is like Chicago. Nothing's gonna happen, man. Right? Like, it's a slow rolling collapse, right? You might see a couple of big things happen, like the economic crash and all these other things, but like because of the normalization bias that exists in America today, where like everyone is just doing this ghost dance and they're trying to like be like the Qing dynasty of like everything's fine. We're still the Middle Kingdom. We're still, the exceptional nation and like whatever. Because of the normalization bias and all the copes and all the like goyim behavior, man, it's gonna be, if I had to describe it to you, it's gonna feel like a slow rolling collapse, and it's just gonna be like this gradualism and this like swirling down the toilet bowl into irrelevance, right? And by the time we get to November of next year, many countries will just laugh at America and just like watching the political dysfunction and that kind of stuff, if that makes sense. That's kind of that's kind
So
of
then,
what's
like,
going on.
do you think Trump just gets impeached come the midterms, or do you think like he's
I don't
forced
think
to
it even
resign?
matters, man. I don't even think it matters. Like,
Oh, so
no,
you think that's just going to get to a point where Trump's just going to be ignored, or do you think he's just going to resign, or?
I don't think he has to resign. I don't
There's no
think
way he's going to resign.
I don't think I don't think he's gonna resign. I think it's just gonna be like him, quote unquote, trying to do more and more things. Like if you look at the Qing dynasty, right? You have this emperor, right? And he's like this emperor, and he's like, I'm gonna reform the navy. I'll do this. I'll do that. Blah blah blah. And he, you know, good for the kid. He starts the reforms, right? He starts like 7 or 8 different reforms, but he never completes anything, right? Like, so that's Trump's destiny. Trump's destiny is he's going to sign all these things. He's going to quote unquote begin all the reforms, but nothing's ever going to get done, right? And so it's just going to be like more inertia, more entropy, more collapse, right? More like, you know, more like polycrises and all these other things, right? And it's just going to be more and more Irenas, more and more Charlie Kirks, more and more chaos, more and more mayhem, right? That's the future right there, right? Nothing exciting, basically. Like, I don't believe, like, there's going to be China versus America World War III or China versus Russia World War III, right? He might try his luck at Venezuela, but good luck with that. That fucking place has 3 times the jungles of, like, fucking Vietnam, right?
Who
Yeah,
do
like I
you
mean
think can
this is what I
actually?
think people don't get about Venezuela. It's not. I don't think anyone here is like singing the praises of the Boliviarian armed forces as being the greatest army of this side of the Western Hemisphere. But I
Well,
think
I
we.
mean, you have me.
Fair enough, fair enough, fair enough.
But I think we can all kind of agree. Yeah, you're gonna need a serious army. Like you're gonna need like a serious invasion force to actually do this. Because yeah, while certainly no one's gonna sit here and say that the Venezuelans are the greatest army, and however they may feel about Maduro, I don't think they really want the Americans to invade them. I think that there is legitimate like actual like, hey, maybe we should tell the Americans to fuck off.
The thing is, right?
Well, isn't Colombia doing that?
Not just that. Oh, Colombia is doing a lot of stuff, but like, not just
Well, I
that.
heard that. Well, I heard that basically what happened is that Rubio literally just burnt all the goodwill they had with Colombia because first off, Colombia was I guess initially thinking about helping them with the invasion, but then they realized like no, we don't want to carry this A and B. Then they revoked Colombian president's passport and visa and had
Yeah,
him
yeah, yeah.
deported. It's like oh wow, so you're basically burning all your allies.
Bro,
Yeah,
that's
they're
the thing.
burning them
Like,
in
like,
road doctrine over Israel. It's kind of crazy.
bro, that's the thing. It's like the guy can't do anything, right? He literally is so fucking retarded, right? That he burns all these things. And the thing is, right? Venezuela is 50% larger than Ukraine. It's got 28.5 million people, right? The metropolitan area, Caracas, it's a huge city, basically. It's got millions of people. And it's like, what the fuck are you gonna do with 10,000 troops, right? Like,
Well, what can they actually do? That's what I'm wondering because they have to be thinking they can do something.
well,
That's
Trump
what I'm
doesn't
stuck
think,
on.
so that's your error there, good
Well,
sir.
it's not just him though. That's the thing. It
Yeah,
can't just be him.
yeah. So, like,
Yeah, what are the actual commanders on the ground like, or at least the generals in charge of this? What are they thinking that they're doing?
I think they're just like, bro, Trump is sundowning. Please collapse. Hashtag please collapse. America, please collapse so that I can fucking get out of here. I think that's what they're thinking, man, honestly. Like, none of these guys, I don't think any of these guys want to fucking fight in Venezuela, right? Like, the country's huge, man. It's huge. You're telling these people to invade a place 50% larger than Ukraine with like 10,000 troops or whatever, right? And it's like, what are you going to do with that, man? Like in Afghanistan, you had the Northern Alliance that provided you like 250, 300,000. In like Iraq, you had like the Kurds, 250, 300,000. This is the thing, right? Like, if you actually study the wars, right? And American outfits do this very, very honestly, right? Like, the public in America, they don't do it. They get all their knowledge of the military from like Hollywood and all this other bullshit. But if you actually go to like the white papers written by U.S. Army War College, Rand Corporation, CSIS, all these outfits, they all say the same thing, which is like, if you look at the casualty numbers for like the quote unquote enemy, like our foe, versus our team, which is like America, allies, and ground forces from local armies, our casualties are actually higher, right? Once you factor in local forces, ground troops, and all these other things. The reason the American casualties are quote unquote low is because as a ratio and as a proportion of the forces fighting in these theaters, right, they are low, right? So like the Taliban actually inflicted more casualties, right? Once you factor in local forces and all this stuff. But like, the right wing cope is like, the based Aryan whatever slaughters the black and brown Untermensch. I'm like, dude, the reason you've got such quote unquote impressive numbers is because, again, ratios, right? So it's like, that's why it's so important. It's like, okay, 10,000 American troops. Okay, where are you getting?
I mean, I'm looking at it.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it at a map, and I think what they're maybe hoping is that, like, what. So you have Caracas,
Yeah.
which is a city that's basically got like mountains surrounding mountains that protect it from the coast, sort of, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
And north of Caracas on the coast is this La Guiara. I don't know how to say it, but
Yeah. Yeah.
it's a port city.
Sure.
And so I think maybe they're hoping that they can land in one of these port cities, or because there's this highway from that port city, because you have like this big airport there,
Yeah. Yeah.
and they're hoping they land there, take the airport,
Yeah.
and then bring in more people. Because I mean that's doable. All right, 10,000 men, take that airport, fortify it, hold on to it, and then like just bring in more.
Yeah. I mean, that's
And
the
then
thing,
there's
man. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then just literally take the highway, because there's like just this big highway that leads straight to Caracas. But like I don't know. I mean the question is that how well defended is it? How well like I don't know. Like what the fuck is.
Caracas has over 5 million people, man. Caracas has over 5 million people. If you wanted to quote unquote take the city, you gotta divide that number by 20, right? So 5 million divided by 10 is half a million. 250,000. 250,000 is before you apply force multipliers, right? If you apply force multipliers, you can probably shave it off by about, I'm gonna say, 3/4 more. So 250,000, maybe 50, 60,000. You're at 10,000, man. You're not doing it. Like, you can land, sure. Maybe you can make some headway. Maybe you can get a beachhead, whatever, right? After that, all the Venezuelans gotta do is they just gotta overwhelm you with numbers, right? Because you don't have the depth, right? You don't have the ability to, like, again, what are you going to supply them with, right? Because again, if you try and do like, okay, well, we'll do like transport or whatever. Like, the Venezuelans have access to ASBMs, right? They have access to all these other things, right? And if it comes down to it and they actually get invaded, the Russians and the Chinese, they'll do it, man. They will send over stuff, right? And it's like, well, enough. It doesn't matter because, the third-rate Chinese stuff isn't going to do it. Well, I mean, we saw the third-rate Chinese stuff used by Pakistan against India, right? We saw it, right? And it went pretty well, man. Like, the third-rate Chinese stuff works. It was able to shoot down, what was it called? The Rafale, which is the premier French jet. So if Venezuela's got that stuff, man, they can shoot down those F-16s. There you go.
So
Right?
I guess a reasonable interpretation of what their plan would be is like you said before, is that they land, they take the aforementioned port city,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
and then theoretically, I guess they use air power um, to bomb
Supply
targets
it.
in the jungle around it. I have a really hard time believing that they actually intend to thunder run to Caracas. I
They can't
really
do it,
don't
man.
believe. Oh,
They
they
could do
can.
some bombing. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. You figured it out.
But
You figured it out. So
yeah,
like
what I don't even know that they're just going to completely overrun it, because I do think
the numbers
I
aren't
don't
there, my
think that
friend.
all
Yeah, yeah.
armies. What's that?
The numbers aren't there, man. Like it's 5.5 million people. The
Right,
numbers
but
aren't there to take the city.
I,
Yeah.
I don't I don't think they're just going to, swarm it like the Chinese did in Korea,
Mhm.
because I don't think that all armies around the world that are at a disadvantage materially necessarily. Maybe that isn't even the case with the numbers that I forget if it was Seth Harp or someone else released about the actual like equipment,
Mhm, mhm.
um, like repair rate. Something like 92% of American military vehicles are inoperable because they lack the spare
Yeah,
parts.
yeah. So
But
92%. Yeah. So it's
I
92% of combat vehicles, 80% of all ground support vehicles. Yeah. Go ahead.
right. Looking, I have a hard time believing that all militaries operate on the same level as like the Chinese in the Korean War. The
Mhm.
Chinese took horrific casualties,
Oh yeah.
and
Oh yeah.
I
Oh yeah.
think it is also important to point out that Maduro's administration, his government regime, whatever you want to call it,
Oh
is
yeah.
not in the best footing to begin with
Oh, of course, of course, of course.
because the sanctions placed on them by the United States and the economic turmoil that they've been through have
hmm
done incredible damage to the economy and have materially
My
devastated
friend,
Venezuelan
all of
people.
that's true. Look, all of that's true, but you got to understand something. The moment the American forces invade, quote unquote, Venezuela, you're gonna get rally around the flag.
Right, I
Be-
understand that. What I'm saying is I
yeah, yeah,
don't
yeah.
think there's going to be like a mass flood of the American lines. I think they're gonna sit out in the jungle, mortar them like the Afghan army did, and they're just gonna wear them out. I
If
think
you're
it's
in the
gonna be a
jungle
very
as an
long war.
American, yeah, but if you're in the jungle as an American, you don't have a supply line, my friend.
I don't think
That's the
they're
thing.
gonna be in the jungle.
You don't, they're gonna do shore bombardment. What are they gonna do?
I mean that's the other thing. Like I think they're limited
If
to
if
air
they're
power
doing
at that
if
point.
they're doing shore bombardment, then the Venezuelans are gonna call their buddies over, right? Their buddies, aka the militias, right, in and around Panama, right, and they're gonna do what Yemen did. And again, you can look at Yemen's strategy. Yemen didn't have to sink, quote unquote, that many ships. They just had to fire enough drones and missiles until insurance was so high that traversing the Bab el Mandeb was simply too expensive, right?
Right,
They'll do
but
the same with the Panama Canal. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
yeah,
Like, I don't think there's going to be mass swarms of infantry. I don't think that it's going to be overrun
no,
anytime soon, at least. I think the Americans are going to park there, and then the
and do
Venezuelan
airstrikes.
militias
Yeah, 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 yeah.
and such are going to harass them until they
That's right.
take so many casualties that uh, it no longer is worth it. Because I don't think the Maduro regime has the political power to have like Korean War Chinese style mass like close up bayonet charges and that sort of thing.
Well, I mean, they don't have to do anything because, like, the
No, but
Americans have
that's my
already
point.
shown it. Yeah, the Americans have already shown us that they can't do shit, right? Like against Yemen, Trump was like, "Yeah, man, we're gonna land in Yemen and fuck them up," right? Like, Yemen is the size of California, my friend, right? It's a big place, right? And it's like, okay, well, we're gonna land there and we're gonna. None of that happened, man. Like the Americans did some shore bombardment. They did some airstrikes. They killed a bunch of civilians, right? They're probably going to do the same to Venezuela. And then what? Venezuela's going to fire off the ASBMs. They're going to fire off their drones and what have you, and the usual stuff. The problem is that the Bab el Mandeb is far away, right? The Panama Canal is actually pretty important to America, right? So if the Panama Canal gets disrupted, the cost to America would be far greater,
That's a
right?
really interesting point. I hadn't thought about that.
And the thing with the Panama Canal is that I mean Sir Cleveland Blakemore, he's on Substack, but he's one of these like OG survivalist guys. But like he has this like book club thing. He has some of these older books. But like back in the day when America actually took civil defense seriously, right? These guys ran the numbers, and it's like, well, what does it mean for the Panama Canal to be quote unquote shut down? Or like, okay, well, sufficient ships are not traversing, right? Well, it means anywhere from like 20% on the low end to like 50% on the high end with regard to like shipping volumes, right? So that's the difference between people starving to death versus like, people having a proper meal. Like especially if you're like lower down the poverty threshold and these other things, right? And so it's like, yeah, you can certainly kill a bunch of Venezuelans, right? Like, okay, well, Trump had something bad for breakfast, then he decides I'm gonna kill 50,000 Venezuelans over the next 6 weeks. I mean, he can start that, but that he's not gonna finish it, right? Like, yeah, he'll kill a few thousand Venezuelans. The Venezuelans, you know, get rid of the not get rid of rather, but like destroy the insurance rates for the Panama Canal with like the Yemen strategy, and then what? Then Trump's gonna run away, man.
What do you think happens with Brazil and Argentina?
Brazil and Argentina.
Do you think
I mean,
Brazil?
Argentina's kind of broke already. America's trying to prop it up with like these peso things and whatever. I don't think they can save Argentina. I think Argentina's headed for a bust. They're delaying it right now, but I don't think Argentina can be saved. Brazil is interesting. Brazil's simply too big, I think. I think Brazil will be fine. Just because,
Well, no,
like,
what I mean is, do you think Brazil is going to get involved? Like, I think there's a real possibility that, like,
against
the United
Venezuela?
States with Venezuela, I think there's a real
Uh,
possibility that the Lula administration in Brazil partners or essentially acts as either a formal or an informal beachhead for Russian and Chinese material support.
uh, it's an interesting thesis. I just don't think that Lula's going to do it for the simple reason that it's very, very impractical. If you look at the border between Venezuela and Brazil, it's all basically jungle. Moving a military there, like let's say Lula is actually dumb enough to do it. There's no invasion route, right? Like unlike Iraq, which is like mostly flat, and unlike Afghanistan, where like the Northern Alliance had access to like a lot of like cheap cavalry and all this other stuff that they could use to traverse the terrain, the Brazilian military actually cannot traverse the terrain, right? Like you have that border with Brazil, but it's almost as if you can't really traverse the jungle, right? You would have to basically sail up and then try and do like a landing or something, right? Also, I don't think Lula's gonna go that far just because like
Well, no,
there's nothing to gain. Yeah, like there's nothing to
I
gain.
don't
Like
even mean, I don't even mean that Lula is going to go to war with the United States. I mean that, like the Vietnamese did, using, donkeys or whatever else, like just chains of people pulling carts with long ropes
yeah,
through pulling artillery pieces through
sure,
the
sure, sure,
jungle and the mountains. I think there's I'm not even talking about like the Brazilian army. I'm talking about
sure.
like maybe some special forces, but really just serving as like a route through which Russian and Chinese material support passes through.
Uh, Lula doing that to help out Venezuela, possibly, right? Uh, he could possibly do it. He could ship some stuff over, or he could like do this thing through the jungle. It'll be difficult though, right? Logistical issue, right? If there is going to be stuff coming in, it would probably have to like the optimal route to do it is by shipping, right? Uh, because that's a very very tough border. But it could happen, man. It depends on what the Americans do. Because if the Americans are just like bombing hospitals and doing all this other bullshit, then yeah, Brazil's like, okay, look, it's gonna hurt us. The Americans are gonna sanction us or whatever, but we gotta help Venezuela out because like this is way too barbaric, right? Uh, they're
Or it
just like
could be the
killing.
idea of we're next.
Yeah, I mean,
Maybe
everyone
not
knows
though.
America. Everyone knows America's sundowning. Everyone knows
Yeah.
America's sundowning. It's less about America coming after you next, and more about like this is the fat geezer who's like fucking lost it and he's lashing out, and we gotta euthanize him basically. And the way you
What do you?
euthanize, yeah,
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
when I say euthanize him, I'm like, we gotta cut them down to size. Because again, like, you can only be aggressive towards other people for so long until people build up balancing coalitions against you, right? Like, once upon a time, the Iranians were like what? They had 34 or 38 million people, 1979, right? They went through a brutal 8-year war against Iraq, right? Country was in shambles, and then like all this other stuff happened. And then one fine morning, right, the Americans invade Iraq and all this other stuff, right? The Iranians hated that, right? They're just like, okay, what is this guy doing, man? The Americans are crazy, right? And then the Iranians build up everything, whether it's like underneath the mountains, the giant missile salvos and all these other things, right? Like, so you can kind of do that tough guy thing for a while, but then people build up their forces against you. That's my point. And it's like you're not gonna be invincible forever, right? Like state capacity in America, it's just gone, man. Like
So
they're not.
what
Yeah,
do
go
you
ahead.
think South America looks like
After what?
after the United States fails in invading and doing regime change in Venezuela?
Oh, I mean, if I take the thesis that it's gonna be like another Yemen 2.0, except this time the Panama Canal disruption fucks America and they run away. Uh, a lot of the regimes there that are getting American money, that's gonna get disrupted. So like, yeah, like a lot of these like lefty parties are more like, communitarian, communist, whatever you want to call them, those guys would gradually over several months and years come to power. Other than that, what else? There's a lot of like American influence in the region. That'll also probably start unraveling. And other than that, honestly, like Latin America is doing fine these days in many departments. Like a lot of things have improved. So things would simply get improved more, right? Uh, One thing that I expect to improve significantly is Mexico's stature in the world, right? Like for a long time, Mexico has been manufacturing stuff, but like, you know, it's been like, okay, well, we need to buy the American stuff because the American stuff's higher quality or like once America fails and then people just laugh at America, like, okay, bro, you can't even take care of your backyard. Like, what are you? Are you a fucking superpower? Or are you like a fucking paper tiger, right? Once that comes to the fore, it's going to be like, okay, we need somebody who's less erratic, more reliable, and what have you. Okay, let's buy more stuff from Mexico and Canada, right? So that's another outcome there, right? So a lot of stuff happening in the world. uh, what are we at? What are we at? Good Sir Base Methodic. Oh, you're still around.
I'm still
Have you
here,
fallen?
but I'm probably gonna go to bed a little bit. No, I guess my question for you is, so Gaza ceasefire, what's your opinion on that? Is it going to last?
No.
What's the end result? How is this all going to play out in the next several months?
Gaza ceasefire probably lasts similar to the last one, which is like 2 or 3 months. It probably runs out and then the fighting commences again. Uh, that's option one. Option two is Israel tries to do what they're doing, which is like West Bank and these other fronts. That blows up and something else opens up, right? So there's not going to be a resolution to these things until there's an attritional result, right? And the attritional result is, you know, like Rhodesia, Israel just runs out of state capacity and these other things, right? In the case of Rhodesia, it took like about 15, 20 years. I don't think it's going to take that long for Israel, right? Its fate is tied directly to America's fate. Like the moment American money, weaponry, and these things dry up, Israel is like, okay, well, our life expectancy is now measured in weeks, not months, right? So that's where things are at.
So I guess I have one more question. I don't know if
Yeah,
you're
go for it.
looking to head out or what. I live in the Portland area, and I like to think, maybe this is just cope, but I like to think that as it's not a war zone by any means, it's not what I'm saying, but as like crazy and unserious as a lot of the people in this part of the country are, um, that in the event of a like real deterioration, like severe deterioration, maybe collapse, bordering on collapse of the U.S., that the area of the country that I live in would be, or at least the metro area of the country I live in, would be
Hmm.
relatively stable,
Hmm.
relatively um,
Hmm.
peaceful, not particularly filled with violence like some other parts of the country might be. I look a lot of the Midwest, I look at a lot of
Yeah.
Michigan, I look a lot of Texas. Um, I'm just wondering what you think about this sort of speculation.
Basically, if you want to know what's going to happen, if you live in an urban area, the fundamental issue is that urban areas are supplied by trucks and in the case of port cities by shipping, right? Um, if global trade breaks down, right, that's one thing. But if America breaks down, that's another thing, right? If America breaks down, a lot of the ships and the trucks won't be arriving for several reasons. Uh, in which case, yeah, it's gonna be a very, very Hobbesian thing. It's gonna be neighbor against neighbor, father against son, the usual shebang, right? Uh, if you're in a rural area and population density is lower and whatnot, you will do better in some aspects, but in other aspects not so much because, like, you're in a rural area and oh, we have the one clinic and this one clinic gets medicines coming in every 3 months or so. Well, that's not coming in anymore, right? So that's the thing. It's like there's no what's the word I'm looking for? There's no perfect getaway plan, right? Wherever you go to, there's gonna be problems. So you gotta figure out how to deal with the problems, right? In the case of a big urban area, yes, you're gonna have these issues of like, well, shortages of food, water, and the usual, right? Uh, yeah. If you're in a rural area, you're gonna have problems with like medicines and these other things, stocking the shelves and what have you. But overall, I don't believe in this concept of Trump is gonna win or like the libtards are gonna no like they're just gonna fight one another attritionally and they're just gonna exhaust each other, right? That's my base case basically with regards
I
to like what happens.
Another important part of how I'm looking at this is, yes, I understand all of the like logistical problems involved here, but another aspect I think is the latent political violence,
Oh yeah,
the
oh yeah,
years
oh
of
yeah.
lard, if you will,
Hmm.
um, and that's another thing that I mean with maybe not the Pacific Northwest in general, because there are, I mean, Oregon and Washington were originally like envisioned by most of the first settlers there as a new a new or abolitionist state without black people in general.
Hmm.
It was
Hmm.
like a white supremacist paradise, and there are a lot of sundown towns in
Hmm.
eastern Washington and Oregon.
Hmm.
But that's not really the case as in like the west, like the Pacific Coast area, where
Hmm.
Portland is.
Yeah.
Gun ownership isn't super high. All these things. There isn't like
Oh yeah,
there's
oh yeah.
like militant leftists, but they're not
Yeah.
serious people. Um,
Yeah.
I know some of them. Um,
It's entirely possible that many of them simply emigrate when the violence ratchets up, so that could be a mitigating factor. So you could get lucky and you could be living in a neighborhood where like, you know, Charlie Kirk times 100 happens for a few weeks. And then people are like, fuck this place. I'm out of here. Fuck America. I'm out of here. Right. Let me like drive to Mexico or drive to Canada or whatever. Right. In which case, yes, you're right, good sir. You could have a situation like that. Right. I just don't think that most people are competent like that. Like most people, the way they behave in it, and like you saw this especially in Yugoslavia. Like in Yugoslavia, people just like panicked and they started running on the roads, right? And if you run on the roads, you're gonna die on the roads, right? Because you're gonna run out of food, water, fuel, the usual stuff. You're gonna fight people on the roads, and like in America, unfortunately, you've got something called tyranny of distance, right? Like a lot of things are very, very far spread out. You gotta use the automobile. You gotta use all this other stuff, right? I mean, good luck getting to a gas station and like the gas station owner doesn't shoot you or like, oh, there isn't somebody else already parked there, like a camper waiting for you or whatever, right? So that's the thing. It's like you're correct. Like there's a lot of non-serious people in like these cities. Like I understand who you're talking about, like the Antifa types and these people, right? Um,
yeah, and I would contrast those with some of the opposite end of the political spectrum,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
in like the eastern half of the United States,
yeah,
who
yeah, yeah,
are, I mean, fucking rabid sometimes,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
but they're also in a similar way relatively unserious, where they just kind of collect guns and LARP as terrorists, and
No, they're not
flaunt their
terrorists, man.
yeah,
They're
they
not
flaunt
terrorists. Yeah,
their Second Amendment civic virtue and whatever.
yeah, yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know. I mean,
They're, yeah,
obviously
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
thinking about this a lot because I live here.
They're not terrorists, man. They're just
No, they're
like
not.
they're gonna like these are the types of people like they're gonna make a video of themselves burning the Quran, and then when 10 bros show up at their home, they're just gonna run away. They'll fly like 1,000 miles away. They're like, oh my gosh, my safety is threatened. You know, the Muslims were about to kill me. I don't live in this country anymore. What has the country become? They're like that, man. Like fuck them, like whatever. So um, don't worry about them. worry about the silent types who talk less and do a lot of actions, if that makes sense. So there you go. Good Sir Richardson, you've been a speaker for a while. Go on right ahead.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're loud and clear. Go ahead.
All right, thank you. One of the things that I am kind of curious about in this scenario you guys have been talking about is in the fringes of the country, and by fringes, I guess I kind of just mean like major port cities in Florida. Portland, you mentioned that area. Could you see like an increase, for lack of a better word, like foreign spheres of influence? I don't mean like anything like too wacky, but I mean like you might see like states try to like reorient their trade away from like the rest of the country to like in Florida's case maybe internationally and stuff like that. Do you think that's something that might start happening or
Yeah,
no?
that's actually a great
Mm,
follow-up to what I was saying because that was something I forgot to
mm,
mention. I feel like, the Portland being a major port city, I think one of, if not the largest, and most influential ports on the west coast of the U.S. I think,
mhm.
we at least have that going for us. But yeah, I'll let you answer.
Yeah, like whatchamacallit. It will happen, but it's not going to happen immediately. It'll happen gradually. I mean, the very first international reaction is going to be like, "What the fuck is happening in America? America, are you okay?" Right? That's going to be the first reaction.
Hmm.
The second reaction is going to be,
The reason I
yeah,
was oh
yeah.
sorry.
The second reaction is going to be like, "Oh my gosh, this is real. It's not a LARP. America is actually collapsing. What do we do? What do we do? What do we do?" Right? And then the third reaction is going to be like, yeah, okay, America's collapsing. What do we do about it, right? And when we get to that reaction, then people are going to be like, okay, well, maybe it's a good idea to, you know, have some influence and whatnot over here. And then after that, like step 4, step 5 in the chess game, it's going to be like, whatchamacallit. Yeah, you know what? Maybe we should have some proxies in America or whatever, right? These
Yep.
things need to naturally develop, right? You don't get there in step 1. You need to like at least play the chess game a few more steps down, right? After you get there, right? Then these other things happen, right? So, I mean, Vox Day, right? And Vox Day is like one of these like Christian nationalist types. I used to read him back in the day, but then I got bored of his
Hmm.
ideas. I'm like, yeah, this guy's it's just the same stale stuff over and over again, right? And so it's just like, whatchamacallit. You know, his model was like, America collapses sometime in 2033, give or take, plus or minus 1 or 2 years, right? Uh, honestly, I think he was too optimistic.
Yep.
Uh, but like, even in his scenario, I think even he was like, okay, well, it doesn't happen immediately, but like, eventually, several months and years later, people are like, yeah, we can have proxies embedded there or what have you, right? And to be fair, like,
Yeah.
when you're at that point where the troops aren't getting fucking paid and they're on food stamps and all this other stuff, like, mutiny is gonna come very, very easily for a lot of these people. That's like, well, I mean,
No, some of them.
yeah,
So
like they're
yeah.
just gonna be like, well, I use this example. Sir Basement Addict. We were on a previous spaces where I ranted and raved about it, but it's like, okay, well, you're a military guy with your 3 kids and your wife. You get moved to Hawaii. Okay, you get the job, but like, because you got transferred or whatever. But your wife is now unemployed. She has to do like fucking TaskRabbit and Uber Eats, right? So she doesn't. She like the breadwinner of the family. There used to be two. Now there's one, and on a good month it's 1.5 because your wife did some TaskRabbit bullshit. And it's like, if that's your life, man, and Trump, the quote unquote fascist that the libtards love to yell about, dude, if Trump calls you over and he's like, man, I need you to work 80 hours overtime to like crush the protesters or whatever, or like shoot the rioters, you're gonna be like, fuck no, man. I can't even fucking eat properly, and our kids are starving, right? And all this sort of stuff. Like, at that point, man, multiply that person living in Hawaii by like tens of thousands, and you see where America's headed, right? It's not headed towards
Yep.
like the glorious, oh my gosh, Trump, the fascist, glorious leader, rises up and defeats the libtards, or it's like no, the blue, Team Blue rises up and reclaims the republic. None of that shit's happening. Both
Yeah.
guys are gonna fight each other to exhaustion, and it's just gonna be like they both succumb to their wounds, and then all the smaller players start fighting. that's that's basically it. Basically,
Warring states period, basically.
Warring States period. Yeah, Warring States period. Like, I watch these people, right? Like Heather Cox Richardson and these types of people. Like these are like true believers. They believe in like liberal democracy. Like they believe in the World War II, post World War II civic religion. I just laugh when I watch them. I'm like, holy shit, man! You actually believe Trump is competent enough to be a fascist?
It's pretty painful, yeah.
It's like, you actually believe that? Holy
The
shit, man!
federal government can't pay their own contractors.
Bro,
So
you
it's like,
can't pay
no,
your
that's like
troops, man.
everything's built around that.
Yeah,
Like
like
everything since FDR's been built around like people
Trump
getting paid in
can't
that manner.
Trump can't pay the contractors. Trump can't pay the troops. Trump cannot even fucking pay, right? Like he can't even pay the basic, like, what's it called? The General Services Administration or whatever it's called. Like literally the lowest department of like the bureaucracy, right? Like these are literally people who are like chauffeurs and janitors. And like what does he do? Oh man, we can't pay them, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna make this excuse, send Elon Musk in, fire the janitors and the chauffeurs, and that's fucking efficiency, right? Like that's how much of a cape shit, retard, goy slop country America has become, man. Like you fire a bunch of like these lower blue collar workers. By the way, right? You
They
fired
did so much damage for those firings, by the way,
yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
like they didn't really know what they were doing at all, so they just were
Exactly,
cutting
man.
across the board,
Exactly.
and
And
it just like destroyed state capacity. It's like, okay, we need to use state capacity to crush everyone, and
yeah,
it's like, what state capacity? You just burnt it all down.
yeah, yeah.
You could do
You
one or the
fired
other,
the
but
fucking like janitors and chauffeurs, right? How the fuck is that efficient,
and,
man?
like, don't get me wrong, they did fire political radicals who were hostile to them, but they also fired competent people that
They
they
fired
would
everyone,
need to
man.
keep to run everything at the same time. Like,
They fired everyone and then they hired most of them back, right? It was so pathetic, man. It was so pathetic. And
they also like rehired like older people, so anyone who was younger who might have been the Trump camp who was going in also got like wrecked by these.
yeah,
And so like
yeah, yeah,
okay.
yeah. That's literally it, man. That's literally it, right? Um, so I watched that, and I've been observing. I'm a fucking foreigner, man. Like the only reason
Yeah.
I care about the Great Satan is because like I walk around and move around and live in the sandbox, and I'm like, okay, if you gotta move around this place, you gotta know what America's up to, right? And so like
Exactly.
I watched the Great Satan, and I'm like, the fucking Great Satan can't even do like world conquest properly anymore, man. It's
We
over.
went
It's
from like Iran war like redux to like, okay, maybe we can take Venezuela, and by taking Venezuela,
Venezuela.
maybe we can do what we did in
Fuck.
Yemen. And like I'm half wondering if they're gonna do the thing with I remember term one where they had this guy named Guaido or whatever, and it's like he's the real president now, and then it's like they just
Oh
kind of
yeah,
forgot
yeah,
about
yeah,
him.
yeah, yeah.
They just kind
Oh,
of
oh, oh,
forgot
oh, oh.
about him.
The news story, Yeah, yeah. Guaido, and it's like the news story is the chick that won the Nobel Peace Prize. They're now gonna be like, yeah, this chick is the actual legitimate president of Venezuela. That's literally what.
So one thing I don't understand about the motivation to invade Venezuela, I understand that it's a bugaboo for the Gusanos and the other
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right-wing Latin Americans in the United States, but I genuinely don't understand why the United States is like obviously a big motivation for this, unlike with the wars in the Middle
You're
East. I
making it
think
too complicated. You're making it too complicated. It's very simple. Marco Rubio is a favorite right now because Trump had the right thing for breakfast 3 days in a row, right? And he's slightly less senile than he was when he had his stroke. And because
I
of
I
all
mean
these factors aligning and Marco Rubio being the favorite, at least for now, right? Rubio gets his pick. Hey man, which country do you want to invade with American troops, right? And that's what it is, man. It's Rubio's pet project. That's what it is.
right, but
You're
there's
trying to do like rational analysis, but the
I'm
error
talking about
there,
before too.
yeah, like you're trying to do rational analysis, but the problem is you can't do rational analysis if the fucking guy that you're trying to analyze is a fucking retard.
Well, no,
America
but
is a fucking
the other
retard.
you're not wrong about any of that, but I mean, the Biden administration, the Obama administration, Bush
Yeah,
administration, they were all doing regime change shit,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
this like openly before.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
I like clearly a major reason for this, unlike the situation in the Middle East, which I think the wars in the Middle East are primarily motivated by
Mhm.
Israeli influence. Um,
Yeah,
but I mean, I'm sure you're aware that the shale oil in the United States is drying up. That's why it's so happening
yeah,
so
yeah, yeah,
rapidly now. I just don't understand why the United States can't just trade with Maduro and be done with it.
Because again, you're making the same error, my friend. Why would Trump behave rationally and trade with people? Trump believes in tariffs, and he believes in I gotta have a surplus with literally every country individually. The
Right, but
funny
I
thing is,
also mean Obama and Bush and Biden.
A lot of the same guys behind all these administrations, so you just see this stuff kind of carry over, but more incompetent each time.
yeah,
I
bingo,
guess.
bingo. Trump is basically the last guy down the chain, right? Bush and all these other guys, they also had dwindling, state capacity was decreasing. All these problems were popping up. Trump just happens to be the guy where all of the crises coalesce and converge, right? That's basically what that is. Even Biden, even during Biden's time, we could still kind of do this thing of okay, well, we'll preserve the Trump tariffs and we'll do all this other shit and we'll basically pump up the economy or whatever, right? You could do it for a while, but now that's also run its course as well. So, good Sir Arnulf, how are we doing? You may unmute and speak. Good Sir Arnulf, are you there?
Yes, yes. Hello?
Yeah.
Am I there?
Yes, you are.
Is
Go
my
on right
voice
ahead.
there?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I was just asking what you guys discussing.
What are we discussing? We're discussing America is Fucked Part 3, right?
Yes.
In all seriousness, what we're discussing is what's gonna break first. Yeah, what we're discussing is what's gonna break first. We're brainstorming that basically. I think we're all in agreement that there is gonna be a market crash. My
but one
position.
thing about
Yeah, go ahead. Hello. There might be something
Maybe
wrong.
his internet isn't so good.
only thing that is
You might be better served by typing it out, man. You're cutting out a lot.
So you said something, you got cut off, and then we only heard. Yeah. So I don't know what's going on,
I
but
mean now audible?
you're audible right now, yes, but you're getting cut off every few seconds. That's the thing. Yeah, we can hear what you're saying. It's just that if you speak for 10 seconds, 5 of the seconds get cut off for some reason. Anyhow, but we're discussing America's Fucked Part 3. In all seriousness, what we're actually discussing is what's going to break first. It's probably going to be the market that breaks first. What exactly is it? I don't know. If you told me enough, be a betting man for a few seconds. What would you think it is? I would be like, it would probably be one of the European economies going tits up, right? I don't think China is going to be like, okay, well, we're going to fuck you up, America. Right? I don't think China's interested in that. China's just interested in the slow attrition, as we discussed. After one of the European economies breaks and you get a contagion, what happens after that? Well, you get the bond market crisis of all bond market crises. At which point, the doors to the circus and the doors to the mental asylum known as America are officially open, right? So there we go. Other than that, enjoy the ride, Jets. Oh dear. It's gonna be the fakest, gayest, most retarded collapse of an actual superpower we're gonna see in our lifetime.
Yep.
Just gonna be no drama, no last final noble stand. A lot of bullshit. A lot of
Just
bullshit.
low energy, and then it's oh.
Yeah, please clap. What did Jeb Bush say? Please clap. It's gonna be that.
Please
It's gonna be
clap.
that, man. It's gonna be that. It's please mourn us. It's nah.
I
No,
bet there
man.
won't even be the dignity to declare an official collapse ever. It's just to be oh yeah, there's just the U.S. and then you just openly have Chinese
laughter.
interests in the East Coast lines.
Yeah.
Well, isn't that kind of how Rome went?
Yeah,
It
Yeah, barbarians
collapsed.
pretend they were still serving the Roman Emperor like 2 centuries after the western part fell
they're
apart.
like the
Yeah,
last
they became the
emperor.
Romans.
Yeah, like the last emperor was like 12 years old, 13 years old, or whatever, and like the barbarian king's like, okay, kiddo, off you go. I'm the king now. You're no longer emperor, or
Yep.
whatever, right?
Right, and
That's really
Even
there were
after
like a
that,
half
some of them would
dozen
be like, "Of
different.
course, Byzantine Emperor," and then they just do that for like political favors now and then, and
yeah,
then they kind of just forgot about it after like 200 more years.
Yeah,
yeah.
and there were like a
Okay,
half dozen different like claimants of
yeah, yeah,
the
yeah,
Roman lineage, the Russians, the Germans, the
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yep.
I
Yeah, like that's gonna take a while, right? That's gonna take a while. I don't think like you're gonna have the Warring States period, but that's gonna be several decades of that, right? And then after that, you know, concludes, and you have like 15, 16 entities calling itself America, then you're gonna be like, yeah. But before we get there, though, it's gonna be very violent, right? It's not gonna be like the Soviet collapse because unlike the Soviet collapse, you're going to have all these small actors all thinking that they're legitimate, right? One guy is going to be like, I'm legitimate. The other guy's going to be like, no, I'm legitimate, right? And then it's going to be like this guy and that guy fighting and many other guys fighting, right?
so what are we thinking? Like the Newsom like aligned military like doing a conquest of the United States or what?
I don't think anyone's conquering the United States, man. I just think like they're going to have their own fiefdoms and, like they will ally themselves with foreigners and foreign interests up to a point, and most of them will run as oligarchies, basically, right? Like, yeah, they'll have like a president or whatever the fuck, right? But it's not even gonna be like a based monarchy or autocracy. It's just gonna be a fucking oligarchy, right? It's just gonna be like the Chinese and the Indians actually bankroll them, or like I don't know, fucking Qatar or somebody else, right? And then it's gonna be like him and his bros ruling over, I don't know, California and one more state and maybe half of another state, something like that, right? And multiply that like 10 or 14 times across America, right?
So I guess an interesting complication to all of this too are the projections and conclusions of studies like limits to growth and the
Mm-hmm.
impending, you know, like increasingly like the end of the lifespan of the world's oil supply, like
Mm-hmm.
getting increasingly closer. I think it's what like 40, 50 years now at max.
Mm, yeah, roundabout. Yeah, that's right.
So I mean, how's that going to affect it either?
Um, basically, what we started off the 21st century with 6.1 billion people. Um, oil, coal, natural gas allow us to do things which, our ancestors would have called magic. As those things dwindle more and more, the carrying capacity of the planet, which is uh more deterministic with regard to like biocapacity and like ecological footprint. I think his name is William E. Rees. That's the name of the professor. But he did the math for like, okay, well, to support the life of an average human over a period of 1 year, right? How many Earths does it take, right? And what have you. Long story short, like there's about 8.1 billion people on the planet. Uh, I think for each person, there's about 1.7 gigahectares of land available. Uh, I think current usage is like 2.5, 2.6. Basically, the overshoot is about 60, 70%. If you're in overshoot, what that means is the principal, aka the pristine biocapacity, runs out. Long story short, you can play around with the mathematics and the models for a while on Wolfram Mathematica for a couple of hours. If you run all the numbers, the number you arrive at is about 3 point something billion, 4 billion, or maybe sub that number. So by the end of this century, that's how many people will be left, assuming nothing else catastrophic happens. That's kind of like the baseline scenario. Yeah, less people on the planet. Always a fun conversation topic.
Well, I guess
All right.
sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say.
Well, here's the question I have. Well, here's the question.
Go for it.
Uh, can one hope that most of those people, that die off in India, or does India become like just the majority share of the population?
I have bad news for you. So, in a situation where oil, coal, and natural gas are dwindling, I'm not saying they've run out, but in the case where they're dwindling, human muscle power and these other more physical things increase in value. The problem is that India has a median age of 28, and in many African countries, the median age is also very, very low. Basically, if you want to know what that means, it means that if you live in a society which has a very, very high median age, a large number of the old people will be the first to die off. So the first people to die off would be the old, the sick, the frail, because again, people, this is a heavy topic. People don't really like discussing it, but like, plastics, ammonia, concrete, and steel, right? These are the four pillars that make the modern world possible. Now, when I say plastics, like, enough, why plastics? Like, well, next time you go to a hospital, walk around the hospital and let me know what you see all around you, right? So, yeah, the lifestyle that we have and all these other things, without those four things, take away any one of them and it just like falls apart. So, like Japan has like what, median age of 49 point something, like many Japanese people are going to die, right? Similarly, in other aged societies across the planet, many of them are going to die. The people who are going to survive are going to be the people who have the low median ages. So Central Asians, Africans, Indians, South Asians, those people, right? Eastern Europe is going to get absolutely fucked, man. Like absolutely fucked. Because what's going to happen is you're going to have these grandpas and grandmas, suddenly they've got no central heating and all these other things. And it's like, well, they got to walk to this place over there to get the fuel and the supplies or whatever. Grandpa goes out, he freezes to death on the road, and grandma's like left all by herself, right? You're going to have situations like that, unfortunately. And you multiply that like hundreds of thousands of times, right? Versus if you're like some 18, 19, 20-year-old, like, I don't know, Sierra Leone slum dweller, right? Like, I mean, you've kind of lived a pretty hardy life yourself anyways, right? I mean, things got a bit harder, whatever. I mean, you might die or you might probably live, right? So, but you've got a higher likelihood to live, right? So that's kind of like what's going to happen on that front, right? So, I mean, when people say the future is African, they're not entirely wrong, right? Like a lot of these African guys, they'll just like, yeah. They don't even have to invade Europe. That's the thing. It's like people call it an invasion. I just disagree with the term. They're just gonna walk in, man. Like, okay, 75-year-old grandpa,
So, God damn it, you're sitting here and telling me that even in the worst of time, the Indian will manage to survive like a cockroach?
younger guy, man,
They'll
younger,
start
like
moving to like areas where there's
the
they
the,
they
the
need.
right wing people, like the problem with the right wing people is that they're way too optimistic, right? When they use, no, I'm serious. Like when
No,
they
you're right.
use
You're totally right about that.
bro. When they use their models, they're like, the right is order, the left is chaos. We believe in biology, and I'm like, shut the fuck up, man.
They're
You don't
totally
believe in
dishonest about
biology.
it because they
If you
theorize
if
and
you
then yeah.
believe if you I tell this to people exactly. I tell this to people. If you truly believed in biology, you would like fall down in tears and fall apart, and you would never get back off the ground because that's how brutal biology is. If you actually believed in biology, they don't. They believe in a LARP of biology, right? The LARP of biology is the fake and gay race, quote unquote, science of like the 1800s. That's the bullshit they believe in. They
Yep.
don't believe in actual biology, which is like age. You want to use a superior model to defeat them? Use the model known as age. If you want to predict how good a society is going to do, check their median age. Once the median age gets to 45, 49 or whatever, the society's fucked. Because you have an enormous number of grandpas and grandmas, and you got to support them. Well, how do you support them? You gotta do lots of deficit spending. You gotta do lots of social benefits. You gotta do lots of like retirement and all these other things. You can't sustain that, man. You can't sustain that,
Yep.
right? Versus if you have a society which is much younger, it's gonna be filled with a bunch of criminals. By the way, the reason this happens is because let's say you have a society where the median age is 15, right? And an infrastructure project on average takes about 20 years to build. If you're like a bureaucrat and you're in charge of that infrastructure project, well, who are the stakeholders? Well, the stakeholders are a bunch of these people that have not even been born yet. Well, if they've not even been born yet, I can just pocket the money for myself. Who the fuck is gonna kill me in a riot? Well, they can't because they have not been born yet, right? Versus in a society where it's like 25, 35 or whatever the median age, you gotta pocket the money a bit less because if you do, they might actually kill you, right? And so that's the thing. It's like enough, corruption. Like, why is Africa, bro? The reason Africa is so corrupt is because Africa is filled with a bunch of young people, right? Young people mean that the older people can engage in corruption, right? But again, that's not forever. They're gonna get older and they're gonna kill the people, right? And when you kill people, guess what? They engage less in corruption, right? And so that's what it is, right? Like, based Japan or whatever the fuck. These people don't believe in biology, man. They don't believe in biology. The moment you bring up real biology, they're gonna fucking run away like a bunch of cowards, right? Like, because they cannot believe in actual biology because the moment they do, the implications of actual biology are that the planet has limits and there's gonna be less people on the planet. I mean,
They go into Cape shit where it's like, hey, remember this battle from 200 years
yeah,
ago, which
200
had
years
like a
ago.
200-to-1 kill ratio? It's like, shut the fuck up. Like, West Virginia has like 20% people moving in. Like,
Yeah,
what the fuck are you talking about?
West Virginia is West Virginia is just dead, man. Like, it's got the,
It's
drug
Mountain Dew and
problems. It's got,
diabetes and opiates.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's like,
Oh,
these,
and they cut healthcare, which is like a third of the state. The other third was like foreign auto plants that built factories
if
there,
it,
which they also
yeah,
nuked
yeah.
this year.
If you dump a bunch of Congo cannibals, who are 20, 19, 20, 21 years old, you just dump a bunch of Congo cannibals in there. What are a bunch of drug addicts gonna do, man? I'm sorry, but like, I hate to be rude, but like, what is a grandpa gonna do against a bunch of actual cannibals and criminals? He can't do anything, right? This is the point I'm making. It's like a lot of the things, it's all a facade, right? Like, obviously fossil fuels, obviously the edge in weaponry, but most of it is gone, man. Most of it is gone,
Yeah.
and it's gonna erode even more, right? It's gonna erode even more, and people can like be realistic about it, or they can do this fucking
They
LARP
don't
like
want
this.
to be. They'll look at maps and it's like, oh, well, this place is still
This
this
it used
percentage.
to
It's
be
like,
ours,
okay,
man. Yeah,
adjust
yeah,
for
yeah,
like 18-year-olds. Like, adjust for 18-year-olds or like actually birth rates this year. And it's like, well,
yeah,
suddenly
yeah,
this doesn't look so good for you guys.
yeah,
Like, I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
know what else
Because
to say.
it's all LARP, it's all fantasy. They look at a map
They're
from
like
3,000 years ago.
50
Yeah, yeah,
years in the past. And it's just like, they're like, well, we just keep looking at those maps. We can keep coping and getting dopamine points.
yeah, bro. Yeah, bro. Yeah, that's literally what this is. Sir Arnulf says it is all a ghost dance. That's correct. The AI bubble is the only thing keeping the U.S. economy together. That's correct as well.
There's no economy for the young people in the
No, no,
U.S.
no, no.
already. Like, that's already collapsed and people don't even realize that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
William E. Reese Substack.
I work in
Yeah.
telecom. How much longer do you think, like, do you even think there's long-term viability for that in the US?
It'll last for a while. Eventually, though, you'll get a situation where the infrastructure cannot be maintained properly. So I don't know which is going to break first. It's very tricky predicting these. Like, is it going to be that, oh well, copper and silver can no longer be acquired, or is it more like, okay, well, we can't get the labor force to like, do the maintenance work on these like telecom systems. It's very difficult. It's like you're asking me, okay, well, stage 4 bone cancer, stage 4 brain cancer, who's gonna die first, man? I'm like, I don't know.
I mean,
One, they're both gonna die, but like, I don't know which one's gonna die first.
and I guess the worst part for that, for me at least, is that I work in specifically the section of telecom that has to do with project expansion, design and
Hmm.
planning, the engineering
Yeah,
aspect. I mean,
yeah.
is there really going to be that much expansion?
Not really, no. No. I mean, you guys are probably gonna do what the AI people are doing, which is like they'll make up some fake metrics and they'll pretend to be doing some work. Like, I think you already know this, but like all the AI companies, they announce publicly that we're going to be sending money to you and do investment, but we're not actually going to do investment. We're just going to announce it so that our stock market prices can be pumped. I think you guys are going to do something similar as well, right?
Yeah, and
They'll try and do that for a
I
while.
was just in
Yeah.
a company like town hall meeting or whatever they call it at the my employer, and they were talking
Yeah.
about how like so much of the fiber optic like materials are being consumed by companies that are doing contract work for uh, the uh, the the data center construction, and how like so much of the materials used in any fiber optic cable that would otherwise be used to do massive urban developments are being used just for
Hmm.
communications between different parts of the same data
Oh
center
yeah. Oh
facility.
yeah.
And I honestly
Oh
have
yeah.
to wonder how much longer that's going to go and what that's going to do to the industry.
Yeah. 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 It's gonna run into limits, right? Like this AI thing, especially. I mean, you're talking about your industry. I'll maybe segue off that into like the AI stuff. Like, people need to understand the reason silver is going up. Half the reason, like I said, is the monetary, failure of the denominator. But like the other half is that you need enormous, enormous, enormous amounts of conductors and all this other shit, right? Like you're gonna run into physical limits, and it's like, well, enough. The Western man, the Faustian spirit, bro. Look, man, you writing a 4,000 word fucking battle poem or whatever the fuck on Substack about the Faustian man and looking at maps and Alexander the Great and blah blah blah. You know what that doesn't do? That doesn't fucking increase the copper supply in the crust. That doesn't suddenly be like, okay, well, you can mine more silver from this mine over here. That's not what it does. It's not what it does, right? And so it's like some people will get the memo, some people won't. Good sir CEO, I hope people in your neighborhood, they figure out things are fucked and they make plans accordingly.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well,
and if not, then they can be like the lemmings and jump off the cliff with everyone
an
else. Right?
interesting
So.
aspect of what I also heard in some of the meetings I've had with my employer and my coworkers is the next big thing, because the fiber optic expansion projects are theorized to be slowing down in the next few years if it
Mhm,
continues as it is now. Um,
mhm,
the next thing they're going to be moving into is uh, ripping up the old copper uh,
mhm.
cable underground and on poles, and I guess selling that or
Oh
repurposing
boy.
it or whatever. I think they're going to end up doing that far sooner than anyone expected.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
I joked to some of my coworkers, the company I work for, the company we contract with wants to get to that stuff first before anyone else does.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, like interesting times ahead, gentlemen. Especially as people realize that you can print money, but you can't print copper or silver or any of these things, right?
Or electricity grid. Like you have all these
Yeah.
AI
Yeah.
plants that are just like,
Yeah.
we ran out of
By the way,
electricity to
by the
fund
way,
the
by the
AI.
way, by the way, if you want to really piss them off, right? Like some of them, they want to be smartasses with you, right? Like, enough, of course there's finite in the crust, but what if we fucking recycle? I'm like,
Yeah, I had
I'm
a tech area a tech optimist bring that up to me when I was talking to her about the limits to growth thesis, and it was just like, I mean, I just think there's
recycling,
limits to
yeah.
that.
If you want to really piss these people off, I'll send you something. But Dr. Simon Nico, he ran the numbers, and it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna give you a periodic table of elements, and from each element, I'm gonna show you what the actual recycling rate is. Plot twist, dot, 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 dot. Most of these metals have recycling rates less than 10%, right? Some of them are less than 1%. So they're basically like de facto, they're one-time use. So
Well, is that 10% as of right now, or is that 10% with very little possibility of growth? Because I have a hard time believing you can't just melt down a PCB board or whatever the acronym is, and extract the valuable minerals out of it.
basically, There are certain ones that have higher percentages, but there's stuff like lithium, for example, which is basically one-time use. There's other stuff that's also one-time use, and these don't have actual substitutes, right?
Well,
Like,
didn't China just make a major breakthrough with salt batteries that don't require any lithium or require very, very little lithium?
sure, but the thing with that technology is, number one, it's not scalable, right? It's not scalable. And number two, the infrastructure doesn't exist. It's like, look, a hydrogen car, technically, you can make a hydrogen car and it has an internal combustion engine. The issue is not the technology per se. The issue is the infrastructure, right? So, okay, man, Toyota makes this many tens of millions of cars per year. What would it take to change all of that into hydrogen internal combustion? I mean, Dr. Simon Miko ran the numbers. Here's how much copper you would need. Here's how much silver you would need, etc., etc., etc. Basically, I'm getting nerdy here, but like, you need a certain amount of activation energy, quote unquote, at the onset to do like a transformation for all these different things into the new quote unquote tech regime. And the society that we live in, whether it's in the sandbox or all these other places, they ran out of that ages ago, right?
So
So
I don't doubt that that is absolutely the case within the United States, that the scalability is not there. But I have to wonder about a society like China or Russia.
they'll do well for a while, but like, China has demographic issues. China has issues with other stuff. Like, China's going to have a few good decades, but 2060, 2070 is where like all those limits hit as well,
Right,
right?
but I also think that
Um,
China, because so much of their power grid is nuclear, because they are the ones that are truly investing so much in these technologies, I think that
their
China's going
power
to be
grid
able
is
to
coal, my
coast
friend.
for a really long time, even if they have
Their,
demographic
their power
crisis.
grid is coal. They have nuclear, but their power grid is coal. That's the main. The secret to China is coal. Coal is what allows for heavy industry, right? And the reason why America doesn't have much coal left and why it's like falling apart is because the high quality coal has already been used up, right?
Wait, so
Uh,
it's America's coal act like? Do they have? Is it a matter of like America just doesn't mine enough coal, or is it actually running out of coal?
It has coal, but the coal is deep underground or it has other complications. America has many, many years of coal, like several hundred years of coal. The issue is not the reserve. The issue is the extraction, right? Like, if I told you, hey man, there's this many billions of barrels underneath Antarctica, if you're a smart guy, you'd just be like, okay, but you giving me that information is irrelevant because I gotta dig through like 3 kilometers of ice. So I'm never gonna fucking get the resource, right? That's the issue with America. Like, when these guys tell you America has 500 years of coal, okay, that's kind of true, but it doesn't fucking matter because the coal cannot be extracted, right? Because again, like, to get there, you need activation energy. What's the activation energy? You need the drilling machines, you need all these other guys, right? You need to get in there, and most of it is not profitable, right? Most of it is not profitable. Um, Even if you did massive subsidies, which by the way, you need people to buy your bonds and do massive investment, which is not going to happen, right? Even if you had all of that, it still doesn't work because like you're talking about several years and decades, and then okay, after economies of scale and all this other shit happens and blah 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 blah, maybe you break even, right? But by then, like, it's already too late. Long story short, uh you're not gonna get there, right? You're not gonna get there. uh
So do you think,
some people argue, yeah, go ahead.
I'd like to hear what you had to say, actually.
Some people argue that, well, if we just like had the right ideology, right, this would not be a problem. Well, we're making a loss, but it doesn't matter, man. They're all just like a bunch of fanatic nationalists, or like they're a bunch of fanatic this or fanatic that. And we can just like whip them, or maybe we don't even need to whip them. They're just gonna go in there, pick up the pickaxe, and like do the coal mining. Okay, dude, you live in a country with a median age of 38, right? If you look at just the white population, the median age is much higher. The mode age is like 53, right? That's the most likely age that you find amongst just the white population, right? The country's hollowing out. The birth rates are dropping. It's very, very clear what's happening, right? Like, you're just LARPing, man. You're just LARPing. You're not in the real world. You're in the fantasy world. You're fantasizing about, like, here's my fantasy football of, like, how everything can be good and we'll triumph and, oh my gosh, the U catastrophe will happen and any moment now we're gonna win. Like, you don't live in the real world, man. You don't. You're just being deluded, right?
So,
And,
oh, sorry, go
Listening
ahead.
to everything you're sorry.
yeah, go ahead, man.
Listening to everything you're saying, it sounds like you're like this is actually a better case for like why the Chinese will be heavily involved in like the U.S. or whatever is after the U.S. in like the 2070s than like some revival in the U.S. directly.
Yeah, and to
They'll
follow up
try.
on
They'll
that,
try to get.
Because
They'll
you need
yeah. They'll try to get. They'll try to get their hands on like American agriculture and like fuel and that kind of stuff. They'll do it via their proxies. But do I believe they're
yeah.
gonna be here for long? In America rather, I don't think so. Just because like it's gonna get very chaotic very soon. And
No, sorry, I didn't really word that well. I'm talking like far in the future, like 2070s or whatever.
oh,
Like they
okay,
hit
okay,
their
okay,
coal
okay.
issue, and it's like, oh, there's tons of coal in the U.S. actually, or whatever is after the U.S. They start cutting deals and like sending people over and
Yeah,
resource
yeah.
wars,
Got it,
that kind
got
of
it, got
stuff.
it, got it. Sure.
I
Uh,
know that's very speculative and probably too far in the long term, but
no, that's fine, man. On my Substack, I speculate about far future, so it's up my alley.
that sounds like a huge L actually, where it's like, oh, we have like hundreds of years of like resources we can't access, but this other country across the ocean that's going to have like
Oh,
an
you
extra
can
50 years
access
might
it.
need
Oh,
them.
you can access it. It's just that you're never gonna get a profit out of it.
so do you,
Yeah.
to follow up on that, do you think that China in the future would become like a neo-colonial monster like the United States is, like the Europeans are?
It doesn't have the demography for it, man. It doesn't have the demography for it.
Okay. But do you
The
think they would have the
demographics for China.
motivation to? Because you could argue
No,
the
no, no.
U.S. doesn't have the
Demography and
demography
motivation are
for it either.
demography and motivation are downstream of each other. If you have an old population, they're not motivated to do much of anything, man. If you go to Japan, Japan is a sci-fi dystopia. That's what it is, man. Like it's got that giant city known as Tokyo, which is soul crushing, and where like all the young people commit suicide and everything. They got like motivation and demographics are like downstream from each other, right? Uh,
Yep.
Well,
China is not gonna be like by the end of this century, it'll be a miracle if China even has like 1/3 its current population,
China, or
right?
so the United States and Europe have had some degree of demographic problems for the last several decades, but through financial
Sure.
institutions, through distributed means rather than direct invasion, they've managed to steal an enormous amount of the wealth and rig the system for most of the world outside of them. Um, I wonder if China's capable of that too, or if they would even be motivated to, because they can see the way that it's gone for the United States.
That's a story that the West likes to tell about itself. It's not true. The reason why America's at like 1.6 TFR, which, for an industrial society is very impressive. But the reason for that is because of mass migration, number one. And number two, it's because America gets sweetheart deals with regard to, what's the word I'm looking for? With regard to like people, uh, lending money to the American government, right? That's what that is, right? Both those things are falling apart as we speak, right? People are like divesting away from American bonds, rapidly, perhaps not as rapid as we'd like it to be, but rapidly. That's number one. And number two, the other thing is failing, which is like mass migration, whereby, yes, people are still migrating to America, but less so because like they're looking at the political climate and all these other things that they're just like, yeah, no,
But if China
no.
is in the future, even if they're in demographic decline, could they build a system like that themselves in the ashes of the American order?
Chinese people historically, they've kind of have the dynastic cycle. Most likely they'll simply turn inward and try to focus on their own problems. Uh, the thing with the colonialism thing is that if the trade routes are ruptured and the supply chains are gone and fossil fuels are like not completely gone, but they've dwindled significantly. You no longer have the infrastructure possible to do any of those things, right? If we're talking about 2070, um, if we're talking about 2070 and these other things, right? China is not going to be like, okay, well, let's send these big ships over and transport all the coal or whatever, right? Um, it'll be a miracle if they can even like get.
What
It'll
about
be a
this thing
miracle.
I heard about, like the Chinese finding huge thorium deposits or something?
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, they were successful with their experimental design. I mean, thorium is legit, right? The issue with thorium is that it's non-fungible, right? So fossil fuels have a couple of qualities. They are abundant, they're concentrated, they are fungible, right? And they are cheap, right? Thorium does not have all four qualities. Thorium is non-fungible and it's got some other issues. But like, 1,000 years from now, if you find
What do you mean
like,
by like non-fungible? Like what
okay,
is it that what is it that gas and coal and oil
sure,
does that
man,
thorium can't?
sure. If you walk up to a gas station and you pull up the pump, right, and you put it in your car, the fuel can simply be put into your car, right? The fact that it was stored there for several weeks and what have you is irrelevant, right? It can still go into your car and be used. And again, depending on how big your tank is and that kind of stuff, it can do the work of several hundred working age men, right? It's fungible in that sense, right? If you have a wind turbine and it is picking up energy and what have you, you have to store it somewhere, whether it's in a battery or somewhere else, right? That's what it means to be non-fungible, right? And when you store it in the battery, it doesn't stay in the battery. There's a certain amount of entropy which allows for the energy to dissipate, right? Um, that also happens obviously with oil, but far, far, far less so, right? So thorium is non-fungible in that sense, right? You cannot walk up to like the thorium station and then pull up the thing, put it in your vehicle or like your helicopter or your like hovercraft or whatever the fuck, and then like, hey man, the thorium has charged your hovercraft back up and you can now like hover again, right? By the way, this is the reason why the 1950s sci-fi future of like nuclear fusion and fission and this shit never happened. It's because no matter how beautiful they make the sci-fi stuff sound, it doesn't matter if nuclear is structurally non-fungible to begin with, right? So
So
that's
what
what
you're
it is.
saying is, that if I'm understanding you correctly, I'm sorry because I'm kind of tired.
No worries, man.
You can basically store gasoline forever, but you can't really do that with thorium energy or nuclear energy, and you can't.
You can no. You can store it in a usable form, right?
Mhm.
And when I say usable form, it can be used for multiple things. It's not just your car. You can use it for a machine. You can use it for other things. Thorium is not like that. Thorium is, okay, well, here's the power plant. I turned it into this energy, and now it has to be used for something very specific, whether it's like electricity or something else, right? Gasoline does not have that. Gasoline is, I can use it for my car. I can use it for my machine. I can use it for this other thing, right? So it's it's fungible, and thorium is non-fungible. That's the thing.
So
That
thorium can only be used for specific things. It can't be used for almost everything in the same way gas is.
yeah. Same thing, by the way, for all renewable energy, right? Like whether it's solar panels and
Why is it that we can't? Why can't we have nuclear batteries? I mean, we have nuclear reactors on like.
it
Well,
has
I
to
would
do it has to
imagine
do
it's
with how
because
batteries work, man. It
uh,
has to do with how batteries work.
also I
Yeah,
would
go ahead.
imagine there's something to do with safety. You can theoretically, not advisable, but you can theoretically store gasoline in your bathtub or in a trash bag if you really needed to. Whereas
Yeah.
you need like heavy protection when handling radioactive materials.
So thorium has like what you call it. If I remember correctly, I think thorium is actually non-radioactive.
Okay.
What you call it. Yeah. So it's not that. It's not a safety thing. It's like, if I had to describe it, it's the ability for it to change into other forms, right? Gasoline can change into multiple things that can be used for multiple things. right? Thorium doesn't have that ability, right? Same thing, by the way, for solar and wind, right? If you have a solar panel, the solar panel has to store the energy somewhere, right? And the buffer or the battery or whatever, after you store it, yes, the electricity or whatever, it can be used for stuff, but it dissipates. Like I said, there's more entropy involved. There's a lot of stuff that you can't use it for, etc., 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 right? And by the way, every time you make a battery, every time you make a buffer, guess what? You're using silver, you're using all this other stuff, which has a very, very finite supply on the crust, right? So like, even if you have like 1,000 years from now, a lot of thorium or whatever, right? You're not talking about a city of Tokyo of like 40 million people. You're talking more like 100,000, 200,000, 250,000 people, right? And relatively geographically compact. Sure, people have electricity and this other stuff, but a lot of other things are not doable. For example, traveling long distances or whatnot, right? I mean, I think that era is going to be gone with the end of the fossil fuel age, simply because like when that ends, then it's like tyranny of distance will assert itself once more. With like, okay, well, you live in Arizona and this other guy lives in fucking Florida. Well, you sucks to be you, man, but you're gonna be traveling there the old school way. So that's what that is. I mean, I don't know how long we've been going, but I think we got like what, 2.5 hours done?
Yeah, I gotta go.
Gentlemen,
Anyway, thank you
is
very
it time
much.
to go to bed for you gents, or
Yeah,
like yeah?
yeah. Thank you
Very
very
much
much.
so. I should have gone to bed an hour ago.
Fair enough, bro, fair enough. Apologies for keeping you awake so long.
No problem.
No worries, bro. No worries, bro. All right, I guess I'll call it quits then.
Yeah, good night.
And, good night to you, gents.
Thank you
And
for answering all the
Yeah, thank
questions,
you.
sir.
no worries. Happy to help. Happy to help. I'll
Happy.
probably do a few of these every couple of days or so. But no, thank you, dear listeners, for tuning in. And remember, as always, the doom cometh.
Your soul is mine. Fate